The cowboy hadn't slept in 2 nights. Hunger clawed at his stomach, and the cold Wyoming wind cut through his thin coat like a knife. But even in his own struggle, he never imagined he'd ride straight into a moment that would change 2 lives forever. One moment he was fighting to survive, and the next, he was staring at a young native girl tied to a post, bracing for a whipping she didn't deserve. He could have walked away. He could have minded his own business like the world so often teaches us to do. But something in her trembling eyes stopped him, something that whispered, "If you don't stand up now, who will?" Before we begin, make sure to subscribe, like, and comment to support the channel. Your engagement helps us bring more moving stories to life here on Soul Tales. Thank you for being part of this community. Elias Boone had always believed he was born unlucky. At 32, he owned nothing but a worn saddle, a tired horse, and a heart that still refused to turn cold, no matter how hard life struck him. The fall season had been harsh. The cattle ranch where he worked let him go early, saying winter would bite too deep this year to keep extra hands. So with a few dollars in his pocket and no destination, he drifted along the open plains, hoping something, anything, would turn in his favor. The morning it happened, the sky was low and gray, pressing down like a weight. Elias followed a narrow trail through a cluster of cottonwoods, looking for a place to rest his horse. That's when he heard it, a shout, sharp and angry, slicing through the quiet air. "Hold her still!" Elias froze. Through the trees he saw them, 3 white men, ranch hands by the look of them, surrounding a girl no older than 14. Her hands were tied to a wooden post outside an abandoned shed. She wore traditional clothing, simple, hand-stitched pieces, torn from a struggle. Her long black hair hung over her face, hiding her expression, but her small frame shook with fear. "What'd she do?" Elias called out, unable to stop himself. The men turned toward him, annoyed. "Caught her near the boss's cattle, probably trying to steal." The girl lifted her face just enough for Elias to see her eyes, dark, terrified, and pleading. Something inside him snapped. He'd seen injustice before, plenty of it, especially toward native families living near the edges of white settlements. But seeing a child like this, alone, helpless, he knew he couldn't watch. "That ain't stealing," Elias said quietly. "She's a kid." One of the men laughed. "You defending her? Why don't you mind your own business, drifter?" Elias swallowed. He had no money, no job, no home. He could barely protect himself, let alone someone else. But he dismounted anyway. "Untie her," he said. The men stepped forward, hands tightening around their whips and ropes. "Walk away, cowboy. This ain't your fight." But maybe it was. Maybe this was the one moment he wasn't supposed to back down. Elias reached for the rope holding her. One of the men lunged at him, but Elias shoved him back with a strength he didn't know he still had. A punch landed against his jaw. Another knocked him to his knees. But in the chaos, his hands found the knot. He freed the girl, pushing her behind him. "Run!" he yelled. She hesitated, frightened for him, but when the men moved again, she darted into the trees and vanished. Elias didn't win that fight. Not really. The men beat him until his ribs screamed and his vision blurred. But they eventually stopped, cursing and storming off, their punishment interrupted, their victim gone. As they left, Elias lay in the dirt, bruised but strangely relieved. He'd done the right thing, even if it cost him. It took the entire evening for Elias to limp back to his small cabin, an old trapper's hut he'd been borrowing, until he figured out where to go next. He spent the night half awake, half delirious with pain. By morning, snowflakes drifted lazily outside the cabin's cracked window. Elias tried to start a small fire, but he had barely enough wood left. The cold gnawed at him. That's when he heard soft footsteps outside. He tensed. Maybe the ranch hands had followed him. Maybe trouble had found him twice. But when he opened the cabin door, his breath caught. It was her, the native girl from yesterday. She stood quietly in the snow, hands clasped, wrapped in a warm deer-hide shawl. Her braided hair fell gently over her shoulders, beads catching the morning light. Beside her on the ground sat a woven basket filled with dried meat, berries, herbs, and a small clay bowl of warm broth. Elias blinked. You shouldn't be here." She didn't speak at first. Instead, she stepped forward and placed the basket at his feet. "My name is Ayana," she said softly. "I came to thank you." Elias shook his head. "You don't owe me anything. You protected me," she said. "My people say kindness must return to the giver." Her English was clear, practiced, gentle. She looked at him with a calm strength far beyond her years. Elias felt something swell in his chest, a feeling he hadn't felt in a long time, being seen, being appreciated. He tried to kneel to pick up the basket, but pain shot through his side. Ayana stepped closer and steadied him with surprising confidence. "You are hurt," she murmured. "Sit." Inside the cabin, she moved with purpose. She placed herbs into boiling water, stirred broth, and made a simple poultice for his bruises. Elias watched her in silence, humbled by the quiet care she offered so freely. "Where's your family?" he finally asked. "Close," she said, "but I wanted to come alone. My father says brave people deserve honor. I wanted to give you this myself." Her words landed deep, touching the part of Elias that had been worn down by years of disappointment. "You're brave too," Elias said. "Braver than I was yesterday." Ayana smiled, small but genuine. "I was only afraid. But you faced 3 men alone." He chuckled softly. "And got beat for it." "But you still did it," she insisted. Elias felt his throat tighten. Her gratitude, her sincerity, it warmed him more than the fire crackling beside them. She stayed most of the morning, cleaning the cabin, cooking him food, and talking in her soft, melodic voice. She told him about her tribe, about collecting berries with her cousins, about how she loved painting symbols on river stones. Life had been simple until settlers began pushing into their land. "You are different," she finally said. "Most men look at us with anger, but you looked at me like a person." Elias swallowed hard. "Because you are, and you deserved help." Ayana looked at him thoughtfully. "My father wishes for peace, many of our people do. But we need people like you too, people who bridge the space between us." She stood up to leave, wrapping her shawl around her shoulders. "I will come back," she said as she opened the door, "to bring more food and firewood. Winter is coming." "You don't have to do that," Elias said. Ayana smiled gently. "Kindness must continue. It does not stop with one moment."